This game, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be watching 1 minute of it.
Come on. We don't have a lot of analysis to do next week.
You know why I'll watch this one is if all those 11 other things look like they're about to happen, then maybe I'll flip over to the Titans and the Colts, Mettenberger and Freeman.
/ Lindley.
/ Lindley.
/ McGee.
I mean,
what's his name?
Let's just say this. This is how I want to cover this game. Tell me who's fantasy relevant. Name them.
Frank Gore is fantasy relevant for sure. I think he's going to be fine this game. He has been extremely consistent this year.
He's been extremely fine.
He has been extremely fine. And
that's the truth.
He's a guy that as your RB2, as a flex position.
Is he Cedric Benson now?
I think he's maybe better than Cedric.
He can't just be Cedric Benson. Cedric Benson was not rattling off that 40-yard touchdown that Frank Gore knocked off last week.
Let me give you some numbers for Gore. Carry-wise, the last 4 weeks, 13, 16, 16, 15.
Love it.
He hadn't scored in 6 games, but then he got 2 touchdowns last game, which is great. Had a great game. Hasn't been in triple digits ever this year. No games with 100 yards rushing. Before this week, 34, 24, 45, 60, 44. And Tennessee's defense is 7th against running backs. I don't like Frank Gore very much this week. I don't think what do you do if you're the Titans? You stop the run and you let one of these miscellaneous quarterbacks throw the ball into the air.
I think Frank Gore has a double-digit fantasy day on those games where people stop the run. We've seen him have 5-catch games 3 times this year.
Okay.
So
he does have a baseline.
I'm confident with Frank Gore over the Carlos Williams, over
you want to water bet that one?
I would love to.
Water bet.
We needed one this week, and Carlos Williams, Frank Gore is a great bet. I like the upside of Williams more than I do Gore. So Gore is fantasy relevant. I will not argue with you there. What about Hilton?
I could not possibly
want to start him?
any Colt pass catcher.
But his name's T.Y. Hilton, Jason.
Unless Andrew Luck comes on. And the truth is, one of these guys will have a decent fantasy game. Because at the end of the game, they're going to have 250 yards probably.
I don't know.
200 yards?
No.
190?
What was that stat line of Josh Freeman?
20? Well, it took 50-some-odd throws to get 190 yards.
Last week, Hilton had 4 catches. Moncrief had 2 catches.
Yeah.
I mean, for 15 yards. So I think you stay away from the Colts. I don't think there's anybody on the other side of the ball that you want to start other than Delaney Walker.
Well, Walker, and I'm okay. I am okay this week. If you want to roll those dice on Dorial Green Beckham.
He'd be the only one to roll the dice with.
Correct. But the Colts passing defense, 28th as far as yardage
But
allowed.
Green Beckham had
I know.
no catches last week.
I know.
0.
I know. These things can happen. That's why it's you rolling the dice. Sometimes you hit snake eyes.
I will avoid the dice roll on Dorial Green Beckham.
Yeah, I will as well.
All right, the Patriots take on the Dolphins. This is not an almost upset of the week potential for me. The Patriots trying to lock up home field throughout the playoffs. Brady, he's in your lineup. Tannehill, he's out of your lineup.
I love the Patriots' defense this week. I really do. I think in a division matchup, they know the Dolphins well, and I'm fine playing the Patriots' defense. The Dolphins have been one of the worst teams against fantasy defenses this year.
Yes, they have, and I have no confidence in Lamar Miller. He's my sit of the week coming up here. Nobody I want to play on that team other than maybe Landry for the PPR.
You got to play Landry.
PPR value. So, do we really know what's going on in the wide receiver core for New England right now?
We do not. We don't have injury updates yet for Edelman or Amendola.
We thought there's a chance Edelman would play this week due to the preparation for the playoffs. He hasn't played since week 10.
If he plays, though, it's going to be very limited, and he's not a guy I'm going to throw out in championship week.
Yeah, and the same goes for – I really like Martin. I think Martin could have a very good high
You
potential.
like Keshawn Martin?
I like Keshawn Martin.
In the event Edelman, Amendola are gone.
Correct. But I couldn't I probably couldn't get myself to start him on a championship week. So it's kind of irrelevant advice. It's wait and see, look towards the future, see if Keshawn Martin can do anything. He has an opportunity this game.
Keshawn Martin against the Dolphins or Tyler Lockett against the Cardinals?
I would probably go Keshawn Martin.
Okay, there you go. So there you would start him if that was your boat.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people that were starting Lockett in flex positions this past week, so Martin could be flexed in that situation.
What about Devontae Parker across the field?
I would play Parker over.
I would as well.
Or over
Keshawn Martin.
What about James White? Is he a must start now?
James White, I believe, is a must start if you're in any kind of PPR league.
Yep, and if you're flexing between Martin and White, you flex White.
Yep.
All right, the Ravens head to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. This is another game that the Bengals are favored by 7.5, and I think the Ravens win the game. I can't hit the button twice, but I think the Ravens are going to win the game.
You can have two almost upsets.
Andy's almost upset of the week.
McCarron is banged up. The Ravens are well coached. We saw it last week. Yes, the game's in Cincinnati, and that's why the line is where it's at. I think it'll be pretty close again. You know, Ryan Mallett, got to get on that train. I mean, he might miss the train, but you got to get on it.
As far as his alarm clock will
correct.
Not go off?
That is correct. You know, some of these quarterback matchups, you look at 2 or 3 times to make sure you're reading it right. Mallett, McCarron.
Yeah. Or it could be, I'm looking it up right now.
Freeman and Mettenberger.
Keith Wenning, I'm seeing from
you're saying as a third string in Cincinnati.
Is the third string. Yeah, I'm looking at a depth chart here.
Sounds like a winner.
Good luck.
So here's one thing that's interesting about the Bengals. We saw they came out. We talked about this yesterday. A.J. McCarron came out, looked really good in the beginning, scripted out a bunch of plays. You know who else looked good with him? A.J. Green. All of A.J. Green's production, I believe, happened in the first half. I don't think he caught a pass in the second half.
The bulk, for sure.
So how confident – now, we didn't see him get injured. So, A.J. Green this week, you're kind of rolling him out there, aren't you? I mean, the Ravens' pass defense is 17th in the league against fantasy wide receivers.
He got hurt on the last play of the game.
McCarron did.
Yeah.
Right. I'm talking about A.J. Green.
Oh, right.
So, A.J. Green.
Yeah.
A.J. Green's a great start in this matchup for sure.
Okay. What about Kamar Aiken?
Clay's brother. Yeah. I mean, brother from another mother.
Sure.
Clearly.
Sure.
I'd start him.
I think he's in that conversation. You know, I would rather start Kamar Aiken than Lockett this week. He is the clear number 1 target on their team, which is
8 catches 2 straight weeks.
Exactly. So Kamar Aiken is a guy I'm not in love with, but I would probably start him over most of those guys we just talked about. I would definitely start him over Keshawn Martin. I would start him over Lockett.
Is there anything else at the wide receiver position you guys want to discuss about this matchup?
Not really. The one that sticks out to me player-wise in this game is Jeremy Hill. The Ravens have a decent pass defense, or rush defense, but they're not as good as the Broncos that the Bengals just faced. And we have back-to-back weeks where Jeremy Hill has gotten the ball 19 times. With McCarron in and now injured a little bit, this is going to be, I mean, they're not trying to mask things. They're not trying to say, you know, oh, we're going to come out and confuse them with our scheme. They're saying, I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to try to run it right up the middle.
And you stop me.
And you stop me.
Over-under in this game is 42.5, and I would take the under.
Yeah,
put it that way. So that lends itself to Jeremy Hill getting the ball a little bit more than, normal.
Yeah, and he always has the chance to punch in a touchdown or 2, depending on when guys get tackled at the 1.
What happened to Gio?
They just honestly,
Andy Dalton.
I believe that completely.
But it wasn't just Andy Dalton. I mean, his production has really disappeared since since the Ram game. He had a huge game against the Cardinals. Then he had a decent game against the Rams. I guess basically just one 45-yard catch was his entire production. But since then, they're not using him. He's not been effective. It's a strange situation.
It is a little strange, but I think it speaks again to Jeremy Hill being the guy who's going to get a ton of rushes this week. And I like Jeremy Hill this week. I would have confidence starting him in a championship matchup.
Well, that's something we have not said very much this week or this year.
Just got some news from where's that from?
Hold on, is that
Bleacher Report?
Is that is it breaking news?
Well, no. It just talks about what we talked about earlier about Chip Kelly possibly, wanting to go to the Titans.
Right.
With the Dolphins and the Browns interested in him as well.
I would love that. And I will say this, if he goes to the Titans, I saw a ton of questions on Twitter. How high does this move Mariota? It's going to move Mariota too high is the answer. He's going to be overloved. I think he's going to be decent, but his value, I think, will shoot up more.
I think all three of those quarterbacks, Mariota, Johnny Manziel, if he's still in Cleveland, and then even Ryan Tannehill, all could pull off that offense well. Tannehill runs the ball well. Obviously, we know what Mariota did with Chip Kelly in Oregon, and then Johnny Manziel is a quarterback that can execute that offense as well. So it'd be interesting to see him go any of those places. Josh Gordon's back next year.
Yeah.
For Cleveland. And so you mix Manziel, Gordon, and Cleveland's right behind Jacksonville on a team that wants to be my Cinderella year after year. Not that I'm not projecting it next year like I was in the past with Cleveland, but I want to see those teams have some success and get back into the mix. And some of the pieces are there, some aren't, but we saw Cleveland succeed a lot with Josh Gordon.
Chip Kelly going to Tennessee would be fantastic, I think. I mean, it's the situation of
They've got a defense. It's okay.
Well, but I'm saying the best part for me of Mariota, where you think he's going to be overhyped, he probably will be overhyped. But the nice part is, it's not like Sam Bradford this year. He doesn't have to learn it. He played with Chip Kelly,
and he's young and he has the tools. And we've seen. I think he's a better, more accurate passer than what we've seen out of Sam Bradford this year. We saw more out of Mariota's arm, in my opinion. Now, let's go ahead and get into the last matchup.
Before that, we need to really quickly talk about Buck Allen.
Yes.
Oh,
because
I'm sorry.
What do you make about Buck Allen?
Ball.
He's been great, high baseline, and then doesn't show up or fumbles and gets benched. I had said last game that after that fumble against Kansas City, he was going to come back, have a good game against Pittsburgh. He did. He had 5 catches. He also had how many carries on the ground? 18.
I hate him this week.
You hate him this week?
Hate him this week.
Because of the Bengals only?
Hate him. He's in Cincinnati. Hate him.
I think he's still got a decent enough baseline.
Yeah, I would still play him.
That baseline the weeks before, the last two, was...
Well, he got benched in Kansas City because he fumbled. So, yeah, and the week before against Seattle, he had a terrible game.
If the potential to be fumbling and benched exists in his repertoire along with the low games, hate is too strong a word because of the dump-off passes we saw with Mallet last week. I don't love it. Okay, I don't like the matchup. That'd be fair.
I don't like the matchup, but I would still play him.
Over who?
Let's
go back to that Carlos Williams well.
I would start Carlos Williams.
Depending on your scoring format, but if you're in half or full, I'm going to play Buck Allen over Carlos.
Yeah, I would as well because I think the Jets are a worse matchup here.
You want to water bet Buck in our format? All right.
Water bet.
Okay.
I've suddenly
Someone
become a big
Carlos
Williams.
which stinks too because I really hope the Jets win this week. Sorry, Bills fans. I like the Jets. I like the players and the people there. I've got an affinity for Todd Bowles, and I want him to make the playoffs.
What do you got against all the people that live in Buffalo and then their team?
It snows there.
Yeah, it doesn't snow for the Jets.
Oh, I was just throwing something out.
No, I actually really like Buffalo Bills fans.
They make great wings.
Yes.
That's not how that works, Mike. All right. Saints at Atlanta. The Breeze-Ryan battle. I said it yesterday. I like Ryan as kind of my streaming option this week. He was barely started last week. Obviously understandable facing Carolina. This week he gets the Saints and that beautiful, beautiful fantasy defense. All right. So who else do we Tim Hightower, love him this week. What do you think of Devontae Freeman? You got to roll him out.
Start everybody.
Everybody in this game is the answer.
Everybody,
yes.
Fantasy Bonanza?
Fantasy Bonanza. I love everyone. The only question that you have here, right? Start Snead. Start Cooks. Start Hightower. Start Breeze. Start
What about
Ryan,
Julio Jones?
Start Freeman. Start Julio Jones. The question to me is, Ben Watson?
I'd start Ben Watson.
Yeah, you got to start him. He took a metaphorical poop in his pants last week, but it's a matter of points. Points will be scored in this game.
There will be points.
Yes. Yeah, so you want a chip in there.
52.5
I was
point
gonna say,
over-under
this has
is a lot of points.
One of the highest over-unders I have seen all year.
It's fantastic. I want in.
I agree. And the Saints have proven these games happen to, those type of, the Giants earlier in the year, you remember the Eli Manning, Drew Brees.
6 and 7 touchdowns each quarterback.
These type of games have happened over and over again with the Saints. This game's in Atlanta. Weather's not an issue. This is just going to be, let's lace them up and throw the ball.
I also think this is going to be a game that helps cement Devonta Freeman's claim to that number 1 running back on the year. I think he's going to have a huge game.
Yeah, he looked pretty good last week to my eyeballs. So let's move on.